Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Duluth, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, Jacksonville, Florida, Tempe, Arizona, and Burbank, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. There's more than 200 Bush, McCain, and Romney alumni. They have just endorsed President Kamala Harris. It's the 200 Republicans.
She's not president yet, Jimmy.
I bet it's the good Republicans, right? More than 200 Bush, McCain, Romney aides endorse Harris. And the majority of the group also endorsed President Biden in 2020. The group wrote a letter announcing the endorsement. The USA Today reported the letter said it was a reunion of sorts from 2020, though it added the additional Bush alumni in particular were added to the group this cycle that are opposing Trump and backing Harris. Wow.
Right, because we only have one. We have two parties. We have the Trump cult party, whatever you want to call it. He's certainly a cultish figure at this point. And then we have the establishment party, because the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, especially beginning with Clinton, just basically fused into one party. There's no difference between the establishment Republican Party and the establishment Democratic Party. This has been true for decades on all of the major issues: trade deals, wholesale surveillance, austerity, the military industrial complex. I mean, you know, these insane things where the Congress actually gives the Pentagon more money that is in the budget.
Yes.
There's no difference. So they fight over what Freud called the narcissism of minor difference. But on all of the structural major issues, they're completely in lockstep. There's no difference. So why not just become one party, which is what happened. And they don't like Trump for all of the reasons we know. He's mercurial and impulsive, and they can't control him. And I'm not a Trump supporter. But yeah, so it shows how there really is very little daylight between, and this has been true for a long time, between establishment Republicans and establishment Democrats. I mean, Hillary Clinton, there's a perfect example. I mean, the architect of the war in Libya and spying on Ban Ki-moon, all the things my friend Julian Assange exposed in WikiLeaks, and taking what she gets, $675,000 for speaking in front of Goldman Sachs, which is a sum so large it can only be considered a bribe. Although I know from you, doesn't Michelle Obama get
$750?
Did you say $750?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of worth selling out for, isn't it?
Yeah. Nobody's made an offer.
We're here.
I'm waiting for. Yeah, I'm waiting for the offer. People say I've sold out. I'm like, well, I didn't get the check. I haven't seen the check yet.
Right.
I'm willing. There's a little bit more to the story. Listen to this, Chris. You just touched on this. It says, of course, we have plenty of honest ideological disagreements with Vice President Harris and Governor Walz. You really? I'm going to guess none of those differences involve the military-industrial complex.
Huh. No, like what? I'd love them to tell us what they were.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure they're so trivial they don't matter.
I'm going to guess it'd have to do maybe with bathrooms, or school prayer, or something like that. Right? There's a little bit more to this. It says, they added at home another 4 years of Donald Trump's chaotic leadership, as opposed to the Joe Biden fantastic leadership, this time focused on advancing the dangerous goals of Project 2025. That's their new boogeyman, Agenda 2025, the thing Trump wants nothing to do with, written by the Heritage Foundation, which all of those people have plenty to do with, right? All these 200 Republicans are in bed with the Heritage Foundation, who wrote that project. That's the irony here. Do you see the same irony, or am I reading something into that?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think ideologically at this point, the American political class stands for anything. They are completely bought and paid for. They dance to the tunes of whatever, Raytheon, AIPAC. I mean, the lobbyists write the legislation. Every once in a while, you get some bill and they forget to remove the name of the lobbying firm on it.
Yeah.
It's kind of burlesque. It's political theater. It's vaudeville. It's the actual system of governance. And Sheldon Wolin, the great political philosopher, kind of laid this out in Democracy Incorporated. All the levers of power are have been seized by the billionaire class and corporations, every single one. And they have deformed all of the institutions that were once considered democratic, legislative, the courts, the press. They've all been seized. And so everything else is, it's a distraction. It's why they have to spend so much money on these political campaigns. What is you got to raise $1 billion to run now for president. What were you were there at the DNC. I mean, look at it. Nobody voted for Kamala Harris. Nobody voted for him. They ran a primary where nobody was allowed to run against Biden. There were no debates. I mean, and as I told you, I read this column by Christoph in the New York Times, and they had this one sentence, well, I would have preferred that the voters had a choice. And but it was a throwaway line. I'm thinking, oh my God, the whole democratic system has become farce. She doesn't stand for anything. I bet you couldn't interview any of those delegates and they could tell you any particular policy positions she had. The whole thing was this, very well choreographed kind of, tug at your emotions, but it was a non-reality based event. Well, utterly. And that's the world we're in. That's where we live.
I did interview some of those delegates, and they all seemed like brainwashed Stepford wives. And one of them, the first one I talked to, and I said, "Hey, what does it bother you that there wasn't a primary for her?" She's like, "Oh no, we had a primary." And I'm like, "Yeah, but the guy that had the primary, he stepped down." And I'm like, "Okay, but there was nobody who voted for Kamala." And she said that she followed the process. That's a verbatim came out of this person's mouth. That wasn't a party leader. That was a delegate. She followed the process. And I said, well, what's one of your favorite policies of hers? And she said her judicial, her criminal justice policies. And I went, what? And she said, yeah, I know she had a bad history, but now she's going to try to get people out of prison. Just made it up.
Okay.
So Kamala Harris is the perfect, as Carl Jung teaches us, that we project onto people constantly. And so she's like this blank slate. Nobody really knows much about her. And so now they're allowed to project onto Kamala Harris whatever they want, because she's not talking. She's not putting up a policy list on her website. She's not doing interviews. She's not anything. And so they can just project onto her what she wants. And so now they think she's going to be the person that's going to liberate black people from prison, even though she was the opposite when she was here in California. And Joe Biden wrote the crime bill, which is why black and brown people are locked up at way higher rates than their population.
Well, that's the Obama playbook. Obama admits it in his memoir.
Yeah.
He ran an opaque, empty campaign, and people projected onto. I mean, he kind of jokes about it. I've only read the excerpts. I haven't read the whole book, and I didn't buy it. Don't buy it. So, yeah, it's that's the playbook. I'm whatever you want me to be.
Yep. Well, I like how they say here, the Republicans also called on friends and colleagues to, quote, vote for leaders that strive for consensus, not chaos. Well, that's very Chinese confusion of you. I'll just say that. I like how they say moderate Republicans and conservatives, independents in swing states brought Biden to his victory over Trump in 2020. So I don't even know what that means, a moderate Republican anymore. But here, Michael R. Hicks says, newsflash, the endorsement of a Democratic candidate by over 200 Republicans who worked for Bush, McCain, and Romney should be setting off alarm bells in every Democrat who still has any unfused neurons left. Unfortunately, it's not. People see it as a great thing. They see it as, look, even the Republicans don't like Trump. That's how they process it in their mind, instead of, oh, the Democratic Party has fully morphed into the party of George Bush and Dick Cheney. That's how I see it.
Yeah, that was Clinton's gift to us.
Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Duluth, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, Jacksonville, Florida, Tempe, Arizona, and Burbank, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.